Ready to dig into something really interesting? We're talking beer, pottery, and get this early European identity.
You got it. And you know what? We might be surprised at just how intertwined they really are.
Yeah, it's not exactly the first connection you make, right?
Hmm.
But our deep dive today is all about uncovering how what we think of as just a drink actually played a huge role in shaping, well, societies.
Exactly. And even, driving some pretty cool technological innovations.
Right. And to guide us, we're cracking open Yan Turek's article, Beer, Pottery, Society, and Early European Identity.
Great article.
But before we go too far, how do we even begin to study something like ancient beer? It's not like people are digging up perfectly preserved pints.
Yeah, that's the real challenge. Alcohol, it doesn't really survive the test of time. So we have to think outside the box.
Well, what do we look for?
Clues. Archaeologists, they're like detectives, looking for evidence in the shapes of ceramic vessels, maybe residues left behind, really anything that can give us a glimpse into their brewing practices.
So we're talking about piecing together a recipe from just the crumbs, basically.
Pretty much. But it is amazing what they can figure out, and there are always new techniques popping up.
It's like what?
Well, we talk about starches, those complex carbohydrates,
Yeah.
where researchers can now analyze those starches to look for signs of, modification through the fermentation process.
Wow. So we're really talking about getting a peek at, like, the ingredients list from thousands of years ago.
Exactly, it's a game changer. And the exciting part is that this could really challenge what we think we know about these early brewing practices. We might even be able to pinpoint the specific types of grains that were used in different regions.
That's incredible. It really does make you wonder what else is out there waiting to be discovered. But okay, let's back up for a second and talk about this connection between beer, pottery, and the development of these early societies. Where does it all begin?
So we've got this really intriguing link between beer and pottery and how these societies developed. But here's something I bet you've never thought about before.
Hmm.
What if the drive to make beer is actually what, kickstarted the whole agricultural revolution?
It's a fascinating theory, right? I mean, the usual thinking is that humans started farming to, have a steady supply of food.
Right, makes sense. But some researchers, and Turk's one of them, suggest that it was more like, hey, we really want that beer. And so they started cultivating grain for brewing specifically.
Hold on. So instead of we need food, let's farm, it was more like we need beer, let's farm. That's wild. But, okay, what evidence is there for this whole beer-fueled theory?
Well, there's this place, Göbekli Tepe, over in modern-day Turkey, that dates back to about 9500 BC. Now, here's the thing that's really incredible. It's got these huge, complex structures, and they were built, like, way before we typically think of agriculture starting.
So it's like stumbling upon, I don't know, like a skyscraper in the Stone Age or something. It doesn't quite fit.
Yeah, exactly. Göbekli Tepe is seriously challenging our assumptions about these early societies. I mean, the size of this place alone suggests that you've got people coming from all over to gather in huge numbers.
Yeah.
And they're probably there for big feasts, rituals, the whole shebang.
And what brings people together like that better than some kind of communal drink? I mean, come on, right. So we're saying beer was that social glue holding these gatherings together, the same gatherings, that might have then pushed them to say, hey, we need a more reliable way to get this grain.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
I mean, picture it. These massive feasts flowing with early brews, maybe that need to cultivate grains in a more, systematic way emerges from that. And if that's true, then you could say those gatherings fueled by beer really were a catalyst for that whole agricultural shift.
That's just, I don't even know, mind-blowing. Okay, so we've got the reason, we've got the grain, but what about actually making it? That's where pottery comes in, right?
100%. The invention of pottery right around the same time was absolutely essential for brewing.
Was it really that important?
Oh, yeah. Imagine trying to get that malting process right without pottery. You need to heat the soaked grain to very specific temperatures. Just trying to do that with heated stones in a pit, pottery would have given them so much more control over the whole process.
So it's not just about having something to hold the beer. We're talking about actual innovations in pottery driven by the need to make better beer. It makes you wonder, was it all about that perfect taste? Did that desire really push them to create these new pottery designs?
It's a thought-provoking idea, for sure. And it makes you think, right? If you're putting in all this effort to cultivate the grain and really refine your techniques, Why wouldn't you want the very best tools to brew with?
Makes sense to me. And so as the brewing gets better, more complex, it's hard to imagine the social side of beer stayed the same. It's more than just a drink at this point, right?
You're getting it. It becomes really significant. And that leads us to this super interesting thing called, get this, the Central European Eneolithic Bronze Age pottery complex.
Whoa, okay, you lost me at Eneolithic. What is it with archaeologists and these names? But anyway, what's so special about this pottery? I mean, I'm all ears, but Eneolithic, break it down for me.
Basically, it's just a fancy way of saying there's this whole distinct set of pottery types that really took off in Europe right when farming gets going. Like we're talking storage jars, amphorae, jugs, beakers, all of it. And it all points to brewing becoming much more, structured and organized.
So it's not just that they were making pottery, but they were creating specific types for each part of brewing.
Wow. So does that mean beer was becoming more than just a drink? Like maybe it was a key part of ceremonies and rituals and stuff?
Yeah, exactly. We even find these vessels in burial sites. And that gives us even more clues. Like, some researchers think that those really fancy vessels, especially the ones found in male burials, might mean that beer was tied to a person's status and power. So just imagine, your social standing could be linked to what kind of beer vessel you were buried with. That's wild, like the ancient version of having a really cool, limited edition beer stein or something. So are we saying that back then a good brew could actually like elevate your status? Makes you wonder if they traded beer the way we trade fine wines today.
It's a really cool thought, isn't it? And it's not just about the fancy stuff. Archaeologists often find smaller, simpler cups in female burials, too. So it's like different social roles might have even existed around, well, who drank what and how they drank it. Gives us this really vivid picture of how their society might have worked.
It really is incredible to think we can learn so much just from their beer. But it also makes me think about how we still gather and drink together today. Like whether it's hanging out with friends or toasting to something big, that urge to connect over a drink feels, I don't know, really deeply rooted in all of us.
It really does. It makes you
Yeah.
appreciate that next drink a little bit more, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And, makes you wonder what those early beer drinkers would think of all the craft brews we have today, the variety, the crazy flavors, all of it. I bet they'd want in.
Yeah, to beer, to pottery, to those connections we make over a drink. And who knows what other secrets are still out there just waiting to be found, hidden in those ancient beer vessels. Definitely something to think about.
Absolutely.